To control a mind, first control the map. In 1977, Jim Jones moved nearly 1,000 followers into the jungles of Guyana. There were no roads out, no phones, no neighbors. This was not an accident. It was the mechanism. The human brain calibrates reality against other people. Remove the outside world, and you remove every reference point. Jones replaced the sun with a loudspeaker. His voice played day and night, even while followers slept. Exhaustion lowers the brain's capacity to resist suggestion. Hunger does the same. Isolation triggers a stress response that makes the group feel like survival itself. To leave became unthinkable. Not forbidden, but neurologically impossible. By the end, the followers could not imagine a world beyond the fence. This is the anatomy of coercive isolation. Cut the map, replace the signal, and the mind will follow. This was episode 1. Every cult begins with a promise. Jonestown began with a map. In the mid-1970s, the People's Temple was a growing religious movement in California. Its leader, Jim Jones, preached racial equality, social justice, and communal living. To outsiders, it looked like idealism. But idealism was the surface. Underneath was a system being engineered for total control, and that system required a specific kind of geography. In 1977, facing mounting investigations, Jones executed his masterstroke. He moved his followers, over 900 of them, to a remote agricultural settlement carved into the jungle of northwestern Guyana. He called it Jonestown. It sat hours from the nearest town, accessible only by a single dirt airstrip and miles of dense rainforest. This was not a retreat, it was a sealed chamber. To understand what happened next, you have to understand what isolation does to the human brain. The human mind does not perceive reality directly. It builds a model and constantly checks that model against external information. Other people are our primary calibration tool. We confirm what is true, what is sane, what is acceptable by comparing notes with those around us. Psychologists call this social reality testing. In Guyana, Jones eliminated every external source of comparison. No newspapers, no radio from the outside, no phone calls, no family beyond the fence. When you remove every reference point, the only remaining source of reality is the leader. The brain, desperate for calibration, accepts the only signal available. Jones understood this instinctively. Across Jonestown, loudspeakers broadcast his voice almost constantly. His sermons, his warnings, his interpretations of the world outside. A world he described as hostile, racist, and waiting to destroy them. The speakers ran during work, during meals, during sleep. This is a technique with a documented neurological effect. Constant input prevents the mind from entering reflective, independent thought. There is no silence in which a private doubt can form. The voice becomes the inner monologue. Control deepened through the body. Residents worked long agricultural days in tropical heat, often on inadequate food. Sleep was deliberately disrupted by late-night meetings that could last for hours. This was not mismanagement. It was design. A sleep-deprived brain shows measurable decline in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for critical evaluation, impulse control, and long-term planning. When the prefrontal cortex weakens, the brain becomes more reliant on authority and routine. Exhaustion makes obedience feel like rest. Isolation does more than remove information. It amplifies threat. Jones described constant external enemies: government agents, mercenaries, conspiracies closing in. In a sealed environment, these claims could not be tested or disproven. The brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, remained chronically activated. Under sustained fear, the group itself begins to feel like the only source of safety. Belonging becomes survival, and leaving becomes equivalent to death. This is the trap. The isolation that imprisons them is reframed as the only thing protecting them. Then came the rehearsals. Jones conducted what he called white nights, late-night emergency drills in which the community was told they were under attack and must consider mass death together. Repetition is a neurological tool. Each rehearsal normalized the unthinkable. The brain habituates. What once provoked horror becomes routine procedure. By repeating the scenario, Jones lowered the psychological barrier between contemplation and action. The final event was not a sudden break. It was the last performance of something practiced many times. By 1978, the followers existed in a closed psychological loop. The map showed no way out. The body was too exhausted to plan one. The mind had no external voice to confirm that escape was even rational. When a U.S. congressman arrived to investigate, the sealed system was breached for the first time in months. The intrusion of the outside world, the thing Jones had spent years eliminating, triggered the collapse. What followed was the deaths of more than 900 people. We do not study Jonestown for spectacle. We study it because it reveals a structure. Coercive control is not primarily about charisma or ideology. It is about environment. Remove a person's reference points. Flood them with a single signal. Exhaust the body. Manufacture a constant threat. Rehearse compliance until it feels natural. None of these steps require a jungle. They only require isolation. And isolation can be physical, digital, or social. The geography of Guyana was extreme, but the anatomy of coercive isolation can be assembled anywhere. This was episode 1 of the Mind Control Archive.